Okay, it's 6:30, so I'm going to call the meeting to order, and we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Mayor Kratzky, I am present. Moko,
Present.
Groko, here. Kufal is absent. Padilla,
Present.
and Eager. Here. We'll take a moment to approve the agenda for tonight's meeting, Wednesday, August 7th, 2024. There are no changes. We have a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
So moved.
We have a motion by Eager. Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Padilla. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Comments, updates, concerns? Do we have any citizens here that would like to speak? Does not appear so. Council members, any updates?
I would, oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I would just like to say on the day of the tree on our bad storm, I know that the fire department was out and they were working really hard with the street department, and they did a great job. So thanks to those departments working together and getting some stuff done. I know my street personally was blocked and we couldn't leave, and the fire department kept checking on us and making sure we were okay. So I know Justin's not here, so please just make sure that they know we appreciate their hard work. They had to stay there all night long. So for those guys that they'll have other jobs to put everything on hold to stay there, it's pretty cool.
It's good feedback. Thanks, Tony. I attended the Miss Gaylord judging tonight, so if anyone wants to see the brochure, I brought that with. That's all I have. City staff, any updates?
I just want to give a quick update on our street improvement project that we got going on. We had a progress meeting this afternoon. As far as probably the biggest news everybody wants to hear about is the parking lots over here at the Legion here, or Alloy Insurance, and then over by the library. They'll finish off that lift over here. They did the west side of the parking lot last week. They'll finish off the east side tomorrow. And then the parking lot by the library, they'll be doing a lift on that tomorrow too. So it'll be hard surface, so it'll be ready for the extravaganza for this weekend. Tomorrow they are also planning on finishing off Tower Street, and then maybe on Friday Railroad Street. And then they have some patching to do on Jefferson and 5th Street, just kind of before they would do that 1-inch overlay. That overlay will take place next week. But they want to get that patch so it's nice and smooth, so people parking out there or walking over the weekend, that'll be okay then for them. So that's a quick update.
Okay, thank you. Anyone have anything else? Okay, then we'll move on to the consent agenda and take a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda.
So moved.
We have a motion by Eager. Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Moko. Any discussion about the consent agenda? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. No public hearings tonight. Communication requests and petitions. We have some newsletters. UCC's Pie and Ice Cream Social is, I think, Friday. The chicken dinner is Friday night. A golf tournament coming up, and Cancer Survivors Day. So you guys can check that out in your agenda. Moving on to department and committee reports and action items. The first thing we have on our agenda is our Public Works Department, and Ty is here to talk with us about a few things. So come on up, Ty.
Good evening.
Good evening.
The first thing I have is a broom replacement for the John Deere. It's the broom that we use to clear snow downtown sidewalks. It was bought new with the mower. It says 2012, but it was actually a 2011. And over the last couple of years, we've modified it several times to keep it working as long as we could. But a lot of parts, and actually the frame it's so worn and fatigued. It gets a lot of use in the wintertime, and it's just wore out. I mean, it's at the end of its life. So I looked up the first state contract replacement price. Was $8,000, and I actually went to Midwest Machinery and they actually do an employee discount and/or a state contract, whichever one is cheaper. And their customer discount was cheaper, and they came in at $59.25 for a new broom. And the plan for this new broom, I know we have a 2011 John Deere, but here in a couple of years, what we plan to do is keep the broom, and when we do replace the John Deere, what we'll probably do is sell the John Deere we currently have and sell the Toro, the 2015 Toro, and just replace them both with one new John Deere. That's the plan. So that broom will fit on the new machine, so we can keep that, so. Yeah, so just looking for approval to purchase, that street broom for $59.25. It would come out of the street budget line 404.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion by Padilla to approve the purchase of a John Deere broom. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Groko. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Now we'll move on to the old baseball field lights.
Yeah, so the old Walsh Field lights and the controllers, we actually kept all those. They're sitting behind the water plant right now. We don't really have a use for them because they're huge. Because the contractor was just gonna scrap them, and they all work. So we're just proposing that we declare those surplus property. I don't know if anybody's got an idea on a reserve price, or we just sell them just to sell them. Somebody will probably want them, but there's a lot of lights there. It's gonna be multiple trips to get them, so.
Ty, Billy was talking about originally maybe using them at the field across the street. Is there,
That's all, those are all getting replaced for insurance, yeah, so, yep.
Did he mean the field at the primary field there, or one of the
Like
secondary?
the JC Park,
yeah.
yeah, those are all getting replaced because of insurance anyways.
And then, so none of the other, there's another field over there that they play on, there's no need for.
There's no power over there,
Oh, okay.
yeah, so, yep.
Okay, so we're looking for a motion to declare the old Walsh Field lights and controllers as surplus property to be auctioned off on min bid.
I'll make that motion.
A motion
Second.
by Groko, seconded by Eker. Any further discussion?
Any thoughts on the reserve?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask.
My thought, it's a kind of a particular item, so most people aren't gonna need them, but some person might want them, so I would probably just sell them for whatever we can get for them. They're not doing us any good, so, we have no use for them.
That sounds fair.
All right,
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Moving on to 9C3, inflow and infiltration discussion.
yep, just to continue this discussion from the last meeting, I put some charts in front of your, chairs there just to show May, June, and July of this year, our pump rates compared to, the rainfall received. And this isn't all the rainfall, this is measurable rainfall. See May there, and July, but if you look at June's, just to give you an idea, the orange line going horizontal, across the chart there, that is our May and July maximum flow compared to June, that one spike. Just to give you an idea how much more we were pumping at that time compared to the other 2 months.
Explain that one more time, Ty.
So if you look at May and July, the chart, the highest spike on there is about 1.2 to 1.3 million gallons that day. But if you look at June's, that 1.3 million is way down there towards the bottom. And that one day in June, we pumped over 6 million gallons. So just to give you an idea of scale. And I tried to correlate a lot of that with our rainfall. And you can see on the chart where it goes up, and depending on rainfall and how saturated the ground is, of course, on how much our pump rates go up by rainfall totals, so. just to give you a heads up, to kind of visualize it a little bit better. That's all I kind of wanted to show on that, just to kind of keep the conversation going on that, so.
Thank you, Ty. We appreciate the information. Does anyone have any questions before Ty sits down?
Have you started to mark some neighborhoods?
Some of the what?
Some of the neighborhoods I've seen, like blue markings.
Yeah, we're marking curb stops for our maps, trying to get everything on our map, so. Yeah, we went down your street, I think, last week and put everything on the computer, so.
Okay, so that has nothing to do with.
No, we're painting all the curb stops, taking pictures of them and putting them, locating them on our map, so, yep,
I was excited.
yeah.
But as far, we're still continuing on with our plan to start televising here, coming up with a,
Coming up with a plan, yeah, to start next year and doing something, yeah, that's the plan, so. But, I don't know if we've had a meeting since last, mastic was done on Third Street. That was done, seal coating was finished, the other day, so that's all finished. Like I say, construction should be another couple weeks on the road, and we'll have some crack sealing coming up probably at the end of this month yet, so. Got a lot of things done this year, so,
Yeah, we certainly have.
With regard to that, on that Third Street project,
yep.
so I guess I envision that a little differently when we're talking like curb to curb, because it seems like on the edges, there's still a lot of really rough spots.
So it was just in the road, the drivable section is what we wanted to get done.
Because have you been there, like, since we've had the storm and some traffic going over there?
Yep.
It seems like some of the spots are kind of giving in a little bit on it.
Yeah.
Is that how it's gonna be?
We're just gonna have to keep an eye on it, yeah. But yeah, the sides of the roads were, the parking, I should say.
Yeah.
That was kind of, we're kind of start patching that with a different, we're actually gonna blacktop patch that, I think, in the bad spots next year. But the drivable part, we just wanted to get the drive lanes smoothed out and.
There's just gonna be no winning with that street until it's completely redone.
Yeah, we're gonna be fighting it. This'll save us a bunch of time though, because that's, well, you driven down it.
Yeah.
It's hard to keep patching all that stuff, cause the stuff just pops out and, a lot of the patching companies don't wanna even touch it because they're not just potholes, they're, the whole width of the
Yeah.
street, so. This was kind of the best option for right now, just to kind of hold it together as best we can, so,
That's bad.
yeah,
Okay,
that's all I got.
thanks, Ty.
Thank you.
Moving on to 9D, we have resolution number 2024-28, the request for speed study.
I'm going to address this one
Okay.
on behalf of Charlie. So as you recall, at the end of June, the council did approve the purchase of speed signs authorized by MnDOT. So we got a grant for those speed signs. And then part of that, though, that grant was that MnDOT was requiring up-to-date speed studies on certain roadways, basically where these entrances were going to be for these 6 signs that we're looking to acquire. So MnDOT, before they will commence their speed study, are requiring us to approve the resolution. It's in your packet. The one thing I just want to bring to your attention is that you're basically acknowledging that completion of the speed study could result in decrease or increase of posted speed limits. So that's kind of the risk you run when you're doing a speed study. It doesn't always necessarily mean that the limit's going to go down. So they'll make that determination.
Okay. So we looking for a motion to approve resolution number 2024-28, a resolution approving a request for a speed study of certain roadway segments.
So moved.
We have a motion by Padilla. Do we have a second?
Second?
Seconded by Eker. Any further discussion or questions, comments?
I honestly just don't know how the speed limits could increase in any of those areas.
No, I just have to point it out.
Right. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Moving on to unfinished business. We have ordinance number 366, the zoning ordinance revision. This is our second reading. So we just need a motion to adopt ordinance number 366, the zoning ordinance revision.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion from Moko. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Padilla. Any discussion or comments? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Next, we need a motion to approve summary of ordinance number 366 and its publication.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion from Groko. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Padilla. Any question or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. New business, we have 11A, Sibley County Proposed Subdivision of Old Elementary School Building, and I will turn that over to Steve.
Okay, thank you. Tonight, John and Christian are here with us, as you know, and they have a proposal here in reference to the old school property. The school has gained ownership of this property through tax forfeiture. Actually, they accelerated that process a little bit, but they are the custodians of that property at this time. They're looking for, John will probably go into a little bit as far as explaining the new tax forfeiture laws, but basically they are required now to publicly auction off any tax forfeited property. And so they're looking at doing that as required by law. But before they do move ahead with that process, they would like to get some feedback from the city in regards to the possibility of subdividing the property into several different lots. This would require platting, and so before they incur any costs as far as platting is concerned, they would like some feedback. So at this point, no formal application's been submitted to the city, so there's no formal action of the council. This is basically a discussion item for this evening, and more or less an opportunity to ask any questions of them. And again, they're trying to gauge your opinion as far as what they're proposing this evening. I asked Mark Oslin, who wasn't able to be here tonight, and Matt is here in his stead, to prepare a letter for the council, kind of outlining, based on what we know to date and what's been proposed. There is a letter in here from John as far as what they're proposing, along with a sketch, and it's a fairly basic sketch and rough at this point in time, but it kind of gives you an idea as far as what they're proposing, and it's nice for discussion purposes. So based on that, I asked Mark to draft a letter to you, just kind of reviewing and giving some thoughts and suggestions of his, and pointing out some things as far as how this proposal would relate to our zoning code and also subdivision codes, any concerns, and he did address that. He pointed out what the zoning is currently for all the property, all the individual lots as proposed. And also then he addressed some other things as far as like off-street parking. He mentioned a little bit about utilities, lot requirements as far as setbacks. He pointed out in one part here, as far as our subdivision code is concerned, that if the council does approve a plat, that there generally should not be any variances in soon thereafter. I mean, that's not generally the idea. If you approve a plat, you shouldn't be jumping into approving any variances. Probably the biggest challenge at this point in time, and again, this is extremely preliminary from the county standpoint, but we don't know what the potential use or prospective use of the property would be. They're looking at auctioning this off, and my understanding is they're looking to plat it, first of all, and then auction it off as separate individual lots, which opens the door for potentially multiple owners of those properties. And so we don't know at this point in time what the prospective uses of those properties may be. And that creates a challenge for us, and actually it says in our code that they do need to define what that use would be. And so that would be one of the other things that would need to be addressed. And again, I think in some respects, what Mark is pointing out here, and I'm going to turn this over to Matt here shortly, but basically, these are things that we would like addressed. So.
How does the auction go? If the county holds the auction and nobody bids on it, what happens then?
I'd have to invite John up for that. I believe that. John, could you come up to the podium?
I believe that the answer to your question is that the rules fall back to the old rules where the property can be acquired by, again, DNR, city, and county. But it wouldn't change, I mean, without any interest in it by any of those parties, I think you're back to auction again.
My question is, have you had a chance to review this letter that our city attorney wrote? And with that in mind, you still wanted to come before the council and talk to us about the options of subdividing that building?
Do you want to talk about, a little bit about how we arrived at what our plan was, or?
Sure,
Okay.
I can. And I haven't gotten a chance to review the letter from the attorney, but, first attempt with this new tax law is to recoup any of the, assessments that are on the property. That's, I believe, an automatic. Under the old tax law, any income received would first go to the most local district that have assessments against the property, and then pay the next higher tier, next higher tier, next higher tier. And any excess, I'm not sure what happened to any excess, if there ever was any. Because of the Tyler versus Hennepin Supreme Court case, there is a 7-year look-back period for any sold tax forfeiture properties, and if there were excess funds above the assessments on the property, that previous owner is now eligible to receive those payments. The state of Minnesota has offered to assume responsibility or liability for any of those suits in the look-back period of 7 years, granted that in any current tax forfeiture excess of funds, any sale profits whatsoever, actually, not just excess of funds, they would receive all of it. So no longer will the most local municipalities get their money back first. All sale proceeds will go back to the state to offset the liability that it's incurring with the look-back period. So,
I'm
Go
gonna
for
fix a little bit of, 75% goes to the state, 25% is retained by the county.
You're right. Yep, with some date timeline considerations in there
Correct.
too. You are correct.
Yep.
There is a small portion that can come back. Our attempt to divide this parcel somewhat is logical based on where there might be interest from adjacent property owners. It might be based on where existing streets are, or where it seems like there's an opportunity to section off some vacant land apart from the rest of the building, because the ownership interests would be very different. But by and large, it was just a variety of parties from the county looking at the property, seeing where it seems like there would be a natural break, either based on its construction history or its current layout.
It just appears from, the letter that our city attorney wrote, that there's a lot of issues with splitting up that building, with zoning, and, they're advising against it. I just, from my perspective, it just seems like the county would have spent some time in looking into some of these issues before bringing this to us. Instead of like just writing something up on a map and being like, here, because now, with all the issues with it, it just doesn't even seem like it's something that we can do. If you want, I can get a copy of the letter printed that our city attorney wrote, detailing all the issues with what you guys are presenting to us, so you can see, but I don't know that it's feasible because of all the issues.
So I agree. I mean, I've been doing this a long time too, and to try to plat something on the front end before usually you're working with a developer, you already have a solid plan. And as far as assessments and getting money back for anybody, I'd say that's a pie in the sky dream, because that's over $1 million demo bill you're looking at. The only thing that's worth anything is the stuff that you can split off that's grass today, and maybe the parking lot. The walls, the common walls, all the stuff that the attorney pointed out, not to mention utilities. You gotta get sewer and water to each one of these parcels, and that's not as easy or as cheap. You know, you're talking about digging to the center of each of those lots, potentially. I don't know. I don't see how this ever makes it through planning and zoning. I know everybody wants something done with this property, and we all wanna work together to achieve something. But everybody I've asked in the last year about, like Winthrop and the new school they're building out there, right, by Gibbon, I haven't heard one person tell me the plan for that. And so it's likely a year and a half from now, the county will be ownership of several school buildings. And we can have a big demo party, but, I don't know, I'm just saying, I don't see how it goes through planning and zoning, the utilities and all the other issues in our attorney's letter. Same concerns. You plat something right now, and you're just gonna be asking for all these changes later. Plats just shouldn't be done that way in my mind, but I don't think you're gonna have anybody buy any piece of that property where there's building on it. I don't see that happening for more than $1.
Right. So, one attempt is to, split off the lots on the other side of the street, the vacated street, and return that street to the city. That would require parcel division. One attempt was to, associate the grassy area with a dilapidated house on it to the north of the old gym with, the potential buyers surrounding that property, because it doesn't really seem visibly connected to the school. It seems more like it would associate with other parcels. The parking lot, has potential use, for the county or others. I feel like if we leave it as 3 existing parcels, I don't know that there's any existing buyer. So then it just cycles at $1 auctions indefinitely, or in 3 to 5 year tax forfeiture indefinitely. So this was just an attempt to try to find a more marketable bite-sized piece for a potential buyer. And I don't know that there is such a person. But if we don't do that, we're just taking it on again every couple of years. There's really no incentive from the county's perspective to level it, especially, as you've mentioned, we may have 4 other schools to invest the same amount of dollars in. So if there's a potential of working with the city on, some zoning plans or options, I think it would be in everybody's benefit to try to offer some tangible, marketable, useful portions of the building, because there are.
Yeah, I've heard, there's interest in the gym. There's been people that have approached me about the gym and seeing if they could get that going as opposed to building a new gym, but I don't know the feasibility of that, because then you'd also need to have bathrooms available to that and other things, so, but that's just one part of it, and then what do you do for parking, so, I think you're right. I appreciate you guys looking at it and trying to figure out how can we use this building, what would make it more marketable. So that's good that you're thinking about that. It's just from a zoning and how it would work. There was some questions or issues that the attorneys, when they looked into it, they're like, these are the problems that we would have with it. So I'm glad that you guys are thinking. We just have to try to figure something else out. And, we met that one time, kind of had a little meeting that maybe there's something that we can do to try to put our heads together to come up with some other kind of plan.
I agree with Tony. And to keep things going, I mean, is it possible that leave the structure as one big piece for now, and let's get all the turf land or in the street, the vacated city street back where it should be, and we cut off all these parcels that, the parking lot and those type of areas off of this, and we'll cut the problem in half. roughly, by doing that. Maybe not financially, but, at least geographically. And then, doesn't mean we stop talking about how to solve the rest of it, but if we can get that piece going, and then you can at least have your auction, and then we'll find out nobody wants that building for $1, but it's not that we're sitting there not thinking about what we're gonna do if that happens, but at least we can get these other pieces of property back on the tax rolls where I believe they should be.
It's such a frustrating problem because, when we met, a couple years ago, and we did have a developer, some organizations helping us, it was too big for a developer to be interested.
Right.
So it's a problem. I mean, no one wants to buy it as one piece because it's too big. Now subdividing it creates its own set of issues. So yeah, I think it is a good idea to meet periodically and just touch base and try to work on this together because it is something that is gonna be a thorn in our side for a while.
Well, we have our commissioners assigned to our tax forfeiture committee, and they're certainly the experts, or the knowledgeable ones on the board that know about how this system works now with the new rules. Would it be advantageous to have a couple of representatives from the city join us on a smaller subcommittee that can maybe make these things move a little bit quicker than having to come to a meeting and then a month later and a month later and a month later? And we could get together and talk in a smaller group
Yeah.
and kind of maybe move some ideas forward.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Like, great idea. Obviously Steve and, maybe somebody from planning and zoning and, one or two council people for sure.
Not it.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. And,
Send out an email.
I know that,
Voluntold.
you had talked about, using a portion of that for a parking lot for some of the employees. Are you guys like taking an area that you guys want? Is that any of the plan, for a portion of that property there?
So that parking lot is one of the tax forfeited pieces that is currently being advertised to be put on public auction. So the rules change does not allow the county to just say, yep, we have a purpose for that, we're gonna use it now. Everything has to go to auction. So if the county wants that parking lot, we now have to bid. So that's the only way we can get it. So that's coming up in September. Because the parking lot is its own parcel.
Okay,
So we've taken that and we've moved that forward to market it.
okay.
Okay.
So that's 10, is that number 10 then?
Yes, that's number 10 on the map.
You'll see it in the newspaper too, okay? It's been in there a couple
Yep.
weeks?
Yep.
Couple weeks now?
It's been advertised that the auction will be taking place.
Okay.
So the county bids $1, if that's what they wanna do. They're the high bidder, get yourself a parking lot for $1.
First, it has to be offered at,
No, under the property that was currently in our inventory prior to the legislative change, it can be offered at whatever the tax forfeiture committee decides to offer it at. And that one is at $1.
they've created 3 different categories based on timelines when the rules have changed.
Right.
The look-back period, the current period, and
And then
the
future.
period.
Yep.
So,
But
Perfect.
Wow.
for future, you are correct. It has to be marketed at its assessed value, then its tax forfeited debt value, and then on the third round, then it can be offered at whatever price the tax forfeiture committee decides to set it for it. So it's a longer process, but the legislature and the courts feel that that's more fair.
So eventually that future, was that the future one that, eventually if it goes through enough cycles, the committee can bring it back down to $1, even with the new rules? Did I
Yes.
understand that? Okay.
Yes, but it has to go through those first 2 steps
Okay.
first. Yep.
How long I'm just curiosity, how long does each one take? Each one of the steps, does each one have to be posted for a certain period of time?
Yes.
Okay.
And then you have to have it open on the public auction site. We use a public auction site to do it. So it has to be posted on there for a certain amount of days.
So currently the parking lot's moving forward. That's the only
Correct.
piece out there that's actually got momentum going a positive direction.
Yes,
All right.
because the others would need subdivision. And you're right, the next logical one is the green space across the road. If we can get that probably split, it'll take a variance, right, Steve? Steve, am I correct? We've talked about that piece of property. To get 2 lots out of there, it'll probably take a variance to do that. So, at some point, we'll probably be seeking that, to make that into 2 lots. And split it off from, because that is part of the big building, that's all one parcel. So we'd have to split it off from there. With the parking lot being that it's its own, we moved ahead with that.
Can we tackle the rededicating the city right away at the same time?
Yes. There isn't I'm told by my county attorney that there isn't a legal process for giving back the street. You just do that when you plat the new lots. You plat that out of the plat, and then it becomes yours.
Can we do that while at the as part of the same time as the 2 small lots to the
Yes.
south?
Yep.
Okay.
That would be logical,
Okay. No, I agree with that. That makes sense.
yes.
So then the coordination for that committee, you and Steve can figure out a timeline kind of moving forward. Awesome.
Is there anybody from the council that'd like to serve on that subcommittee?
Yeah, I'll be a part of it.
I can too. Yeah. I
Two
mean,
would be- have two.
yeah. I mean, get the date. It might be a pool though. I mean, I'd be willing to do it. It's times and dates, of course. It'd be good to have if at least Orlin or somebody from planning and zoning could be there.
Yeah, I don't wanna step on anybody's toes, so. Thanks for taking a stab at that and trying to figure something out. I know you guys are thinking about it.
We gotta do
I
something.
think about it every day when I
Look at it, look out your window.
There's a lot of anecdotes and creative ways that folks have tackled projects like this, but, yeah, so it takes multiple parties to understand what the end goal is. And so the county's made efforts to try to get it back in ownership again.
Yeah.
It's not gonna sell itself, so it will probably take some thinking about it from the city's side too, and what's important to you.
Yeah, we definitely think about it all the time too. So eyesore.
Well, we definitely need to work together and everybody contributes, so one
Sounds
step at a time.
Great plan moving forward is to do this together, so. Okay, anything else on that? Well, next on our agenda is 11B, Sibley County Proposed Amendment to Library Service Level Agreement.
Yes, I can speak on that. More positive news. The state of Minnesota has increased its contribution to the regional library systems. The state of Minnesota doesn't put money for individual systems. They only do it at the regional library level. And at Traverse des Sioux, TDS, we've chosen to translate that into a reduction in membership fees that each of the libraries pay to participate in the service sharing and other perks of being part of Traverse des Sioux. That membership fee is something that the county pays for. We now pay for it through our appropriation to the city because the city is holding the checkbook for the libraries. The amount countywide is significant, about $20,000, and I thought significant enough that it makes sense to do a service level amendment. When we were in discussion of it, I called the city administrators and offered my suggestion to do it that way under the basis of the bill's not gonna be as high, the revenue's not gonna be as high. The budget for '25 library would stay fairly similar. Because even though it's a little strange to do an amendment in the last year of a contract, the alternate to that would be having $3,000-4,000 that either lands in the library's fund balance or is still sitting in the city's account at the end of the year. And when the county makes its 2026 appropriation, we'd be compensating 2 years out of our appropriation, and it just gets a little bit more cumbersome when you think of different boards and decisions on what to do for funding in the future and going forward. And in the name of sustaining what we've been sustaining in the past, it seems like making this adjustment here is simpler than trying to back credit, a couple years' worth in future appropriations. Do you have questions about roughly how library funding is made or the history between the cities and the county on who's been housing the library accounts, or about this state funding itself, or anything else with the libraries?
I have a question. I guess I don't recall it in the contract or agreement, or even in our negotiations leading up to the agreement, that the county was defined as paying the TDS dues. Is that for a fact? I mean, is that, we get the invoice, obviously, and we pay it. So, help me here. I don't remember that being part of it.
You're right. Yep, there is no definition. The Sibley County housed the account until about 2 years ago, when we conveyed the accounts, including their fund balances, to the cities to house. Every city had a little bit different interest in directors and in levels of service, and so the county paid for library services with the exception of the facility and the director's time. When we created this 3-year contract for how the city and the county would be contributing to the libraries going forward, we applied an inflation factor to what each of us were contributing. So there is no breakdown of what any of us are paying anymore, but that's what our appropriation was based on. In loose math, the libraries in Sibley County each run about $100,000, $500,000 overall. The county roughly pays 2/3 of the cost, cities about 1/3 of the cost. Some of that's shuffled since administration has moved from the county to the city. If you don't want TDS fees to be part of what the county's considering maintaining service in the future, that would be totally fine. But that's what we've based our numbers on in the past, because that's what we've been paying for in the past.
I think I might be the only one that's a little confused by this whole thing. I'm not really understanding how this whole TDS and how that money's coming into play, and why you're trying to deduct that money from next year's money that you're gonna pay to the city. So is that TDS money is given to the county from the state, or?
Yeah, you're right, the mechanics are a little bit odd. Since the state is increasing its contribution to a regional library system, our regional library system isn't invoicing our individual libraries as much. Normally, that's a bill that the county has to pay through our appropriation to the city.
Okay.
But since the bill is not as much, we didn't want to make our appropriation as much. So that the conversation going forward is still, what do we need to maintain the level of service, rather than, okay, you had $3,500 from 25 that we paid for that wasn't billed for. What do we do in 26 to adjust for that in 2 years' time, and then correct for that going forward? That's why I thought this correction now would make more sense, because it's the numbers we have.
Anybody else make this decision yet?
Did anybody else make this? Gaylord's the only city that had any interest in bringing the conversation to the city council. Winthrop is considering the idea of leaving it in the library budget as increased level of service. If they would do more book purchases or magazine subscriptions or something like that, which is certainly an option. Sibley County, with the cities, pays about twice what statute dictates us to contribute to libraries, just based on the fact that we have 5 locations. It couldn't be done without the cities contributing their third of the cost to that.
Just to add, the city of Gibbon did pass the resolution last night, and the city of Henderson passed their resolution about a month ago
To amend it?
to amend it, yes.
I did reach out to Arlington too, and earlier this week they approved it as well. If the council does elect to change it, I would suggest maybe then language would be added to the agreement to address the TDS. Because, like I said earlier, I wasn't, I was part of this process when this was established, and this is actually the first time I'm hearing that whole thing, as far as Christian, how he laid this all out. So this is new to me too, and I was a part of the negotiation, and even reviewing the contract, and our attorney and myself did chime in on that final agreement, but this was not something that was addressed back then. So if it's going to be addressed and be considered a part of their support, then I think it should be addressed in there, in the agreement as such.
So the next contract for,
Or if, again, if you elect to amend it at this time, you could pick that up now and then just incorporate it going forward then. Because we have 1 more year on the agreement, and this reduction in the TDS dues is going to take effect next year. So at the end of next year, before the end of next year, hopefully we'll be entering a new agreement.
Yeah, it's an appropriation. I don't know if agreement is necessary going forward. We could list out how much the library budgets are going, for books and materials too, and for hours and for everything if we wanted to. I guess.
I guess my point is you're tying at least something specific to the TDS dues to the county support.
Yes.
And if that's true going forward, then I think we should put that in writing. I mean, the rest, I guess I was always under the impression that the county support was going towards the operations, and the TDS dues is just simply part of the operations. But this seems like it's somewhat of an important factor, that if the TDS dues ever change, then it could adjust the support from the county, one way or the other.
Yeah, that's
I
true.
mean, it seems like that's what you're pointing out this evening anyway.
Yeah.
That's your basis for the proposal.
Well, the basis for the proposal is that there's a $20,000 adjustment that should be addressed one way or another. And if it's not, it'll either sit in the library account for an extra year or be used to increase level of service. And I don't know that that was the intent. It's a cost savings that we wanted to address. I guess I'm sure a lot of the other numbers have changed, through city management too, how much is getting budgeted in different areas of the library, but that's what our contribution was based on when we developed it. In inflation, for what we thought those costs would be going to the next few years. We didn't look at what Gaylord Library is budgeting in books last year, or if that was in line with where we proposed inflation on books. It was just factored in. But $20,000 is a lot, and so we thought it was a good one-time adjustment. Stipulating that county covers at minimum the cost of TDS dues is not out of line, but I also, yeah. It's,
Yeah, for us,
we didn't get into the details on all the other budget lines. We just, wanted to address this one.
pardon me. So basically, the county support for 2024 is approximately 79,800, and our TDS dues are about 11,700 in that neighborhood. So that's the percentage of the TDS of your whole support. The rest of it goes towards the operating, it's all part of the operation. So it is grand majority goes to other functions of the library.
Well, is this something that, for right now, that we could just table it to try to figure out what, like, how Winthrop is using it in Arlington, and just kind of figure out what our needs are, and then make a decision at our next council meeting, with having time to let this all sink in and figure everything out. I'm not trying to ignore, what you're here for tonight. This is just the first time, I'm really looking at it, and I don't really have a good handle on this, and I just want to be able to process it and really understand it. So, I don't know if you guys all got a good handle on it and feel comfortable.
Do you want a flow chart?
Yes.
The way it did read, I did misunderstand it
Yeah.
myself, I'll be honest. But you're saying, so the whatever city it was that is gonna leave the $5,000 in the account, you're basically adding more to the budget there, and that's fine that they wanna do that, but,
Yeah, they said for like books, or what was it?
Well, they're discussing it. Basically, it was gonna be a cost savings that nobody was addressing. So I wanted to address it. And if we wanna wait till 26, that's perfectly fine. Just know that you're receiving $3,500 or whatever savings this year that is likely unspent, and you'll be carrying it over to next year. So the county should plan on adjusting for that. And I didn't want to shock you in 26 with a number that was $7,000 lower than you think, because you already spent it on something, or you saved it back for the city, or you didn't leave it in the fund balance. That's why I thought the simplest way to maintain the 25 budget is just to do this adjustment, because you're being billed that much less money, so you would be receiving that much less money. And then the conversation going forward can be, hey, what does it take to maintain inflation on the library? Which is simpler than everything else, especially with board turnovers and the other criticisms that come with a large spending item. $500,000 is a large spending item between the cities and the county.
So do you think that there'll be a $5,000 possible reduction in 25, and then another 5,000 in 26?
No, I think it would be a one-year deduction,
Okay.
but it'll be a sustained reduction. The state of Minnesota hadn't increased its regional library systems funding the last 13 years. The lobbying was to peg it to the school library funding that does have an inflation factor. So this was a one-time large increase that going forward has a 2 to 3% inflation factor built in. So it's not just hey, we had some staff time savings at TDS this year, let's offer that discount back to the cities, see what happens next year. It's a sustained reduction.
Maybe you're aware of this already, so pardon me. From a city standpoint, our library falls under our general fund, so it's under that umbrella. So if there is any, say we operate to a positive at the end of the year, that just gets absorbed into our general fund.
I figured that's the case, and I don't know how many libraries are looking at increasing the level of service, and if they do, what's the expectation from the county to maintain that level? It's its own conversation. Really what this is a cost savings, and my recommendation would be to treat it as such.
I can get behind that.
Thank you.
So tonight, do you, Tony suggested tabling it? Do we, want to consider that, or do we want to consider moving forward and having this, an amendment at our next meeting?
You comfortable enough if I make the motion, Tony?
Yeah, I'm
or do you-
fine.
Okay.
All right, I'll make the motion to go ahead and approve.
If I may, before you do
Oh,
that.
yeah.
Do we just need?
Maybe tonight, if we could just have a consensus.
Yeah.
'Cause I'd like to get a document in front of you, and
Yeah.
then you can approve that document. I talked to Mark.
resolution, or,
Well, Mark is, and we've talked about, we'd like to just do versus a resolution, do a standalone amendment to it.
okay.
Maybe Matt, you can chime in on that.
Yeah, for something like this, I mean, you're effectively amending the terms of a contract, which itself will require a writing of some sort. You can't just simply amend this by resolution or motion. So it's going to require something a bit more, and I kind of concur with Mr. Helget there that, you know, it'd be best to have something in writing that the council can take a look at.
All right, well,
Okay.
just need consensus then, and bring it back to future meeting?
Does everyone agree to that?
Sure.
Okay, we have consensus. Thank you both very much for your time.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Still want that flow chart.
Moving on to 11C, 2024 roof replacement project, and I will let Steve address that.
Okay, you'll recall that the council did review and approve the solicitation from 5 different contractors for the roof replacements that were damaged in last fall's hailstorm. We solicited from all 5. 2 gave us, submitted quotes to the city, Dietz Builders and HRES LLC. Dietz Builders was the lower quote of $121,000, $348,000. So we're recommending you'd award the project to them. Project completion date, which was included in the request for quote, is October 18th of this year. And then lastly, we would have a separate agreement that we would have with the contractor. One of the things that we did require is, you know, with the successful, once it's awarded, in the contract, we would have a performance bond that would be required of them. And so that would be something that we'd want them to sign a contract and then provide at that time. So talk to both of these contractors, inform them of what the quotes that we received, and I'm not sure what Dietz would be looking as far as a starting date, but again, the deadline is October 18th. We also put in there that they could not start with the pool until it was closed. So basically, it was in August.
What was the performance bond?
Performance bond, it's basically to ensure that they complete the job.
Okay.
That's a very layman term, but that's basically what it is.
Yeah, we only got like a week and a half for the, I think it's August 16th, I think is the last day.
17th.
The week after, next
No,
weekend, not this coming, but the
That
following.
Saturday.
Sad.
Is it the 18th? Nope, 17th. You're right. Okay, so we need a motion to award the 2024 roof replacement project to Dietz Builders for $121,348.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Padilla, seconded by Eker. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. 11D is to schedule a work session meeting for the 2025 preliminary budget.
I did get an email from Scott, and he's got some, the only 2 dates that work for him of those 4 was the 13th or the 26th.
26th doesn't work for me.
Me neither, that's the only one that don't work for me. is
Yeah,
the
me too.
26th. Vacation day.
What are we talking, August?
Our next council meeting?
Yeah, those are the 4 August dates, yes, Tony. 13, 19, 20, 26. Steve had proposed.
Just looking at my calendar, potentially the 15th would be another option. Ideally, again, we'd always like everybody there.
What's, the 21st won't work for, we got the 21st.
We have our regular council meeting that night.
Oh,
Yeah, why can't we do it then?
we do it early?
Steve's thinking,
Or how much time do you want for this?
Well,
thinking personnel committee meeting.
it's a budget, so, I mean,
Yeah.
30 minutes?
Not that long, you said budget.
You already
Yeah,
got
but
it done,
if we have
Steve.
it and we skim through it, typically, we don't have to go through it line by line at this time.
no, we won't go through it line by line, but there's certainly always some discussion items. I mean, obviously, the levy would be a big one.
You got personnel committee at 5:30 in that?
Well, we were planning for it, yes.
Oh.
I mean, we have somebody coming to that meeting.
Oh,
I've scheduled that.
yes.
if you
For the
want.
personnel,
Yeah,
so then we can have the budget meeting at 6:30.
That'd be our regular meeting.
Well, can we have the budget meeting immediately following the council meeting?
If it's a very short council, because otherwise we're all gonna be checked out anyways.
That'd be too long.
We're all here is my point, I mean. And I said that-
Scott will not be here now.
Oh, that
He
date don't work for
He
Scott?
can't, he just let me know in the same email that won't.
So what dates
Likely won't work for him.
work
He's
for him?
trying to get out, see if he can switch around his schedule, but right now, he said it won't work for him, but he's trying.
So which dates work for him?
The 13th and the 26th.
What about the 4th, September 4th?
Yeah, the 13th, I will be in the cities for, I mean, I'll be here, but I might be getting here, like, coming in hot, so.
The night,
It'll be hard for me to get back by 5:30.
I can't do the 19th.
I know September 4th's getting out there, it's gonna make Steve nervous going that late, but.
Yeah, but if we all get the agenda, or get the budget before, and we all go through it, I mean, typically, it's just little questions here and there, because we don't go through it line by line until the next one.
The 4th will be our regular meeting.
Because I'm sure he'll have it.
Right,
Like,
but I mean, can't we do it an hour before that?
Yeah, I mean, I've been working on it already quite a bit. I've met with all the department heads, and I've got a pretty good idea where we're looking at it. It doesn't look too bad at this point in time.
so you got like 5%.
Well, Not
4%.
quite there,
I
but
think
it
at 4.
The project was gonna be about 6%, right?
Yeah.
was 5 in itself, yeah.
Yeah.
But fortunately, we had levied some monies already for an interest payment, so that helped us. That was already built into the levy, so we've got some monies that were already there, so that helped. So at this point in time, it's not looking too bad. I'm less than 8.
Yeah, good job.
So don't quote me on that at this point in time. Subject to change.
So he's saying he can get to
What
6.
do we even need to beat then? We don't even need to beat anything.
That's pretty good.
Until the
'cause
next one.
It was 5-something, right, we're just with the project, I know, right?
Steve's saying he can get to 6.
Well, the 26th or 4th works for me. What is it?
Because we have
Can't
to,
do
we
the
have to prove the preliminary's gotta be approved by the middle
Oh,
of
yeah,
September,
that's
right?
We have to have it submitted before the end of September. I think it's right at the end of September, so our last regular meeting's on the 18th.
The 18th works too.
I'd rather not
I
wait
don't know
until
my
then.
schedule yet, so I
We can't wait
Don't
till
keep
then.
going, he's getting nervous, you keep moving it back.
Okay.
That's too much
Should we do
pressure.
September 4th?
We'd have a work session, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay, it's gonna be tight,
5:30?
yeah. Yeah, it'd have to be, I mean, you probably can't make it sooner than that, I'm guessing. 5:30 is,
Yeah, 5:30. is
I
tough
haven't
for me.
asked Scott that date up, but he didn't say he couldn't make it on the 4th, so.
I think you put the council at ease that you didn't say it's at 18% or 15,
Yeah.
so.
That was your mistake right there.
We've worked down some high numbers before, and so if you're in the ballpark at 8, you said, right now?
we could just go with that.
That's pretty good for, that's the
Oh,
lowest preliminary
Jessica.
number we had in a long time.
What?
We can't just go with that.
What, we can go line for
Hey,
line
save
in
it
the
for the
next
workshop,
one.
you two.
Please don't hold me to that, I'm still working on it.
Okay.
He's gonna keep saying.
Nope, you
"Don't
said
hold
it.
me
It's
to that."
done.
Likely under 10.
Okay, so September 4th at 5:30.
I got it. We're good.
Okay, so we need a motion to schedule a special city council meeting for 5:30 PM on September 4th, 2024,
So moved.
for the purpose of reviewing the budget. We have a motion by Eker. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Padilla. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. 11E, now we need to schedule a special meeting to canvass the 2024 election results.
Yeah, by law, we have to do it within a certain period of time, so we can't wait until our regular meeting to do it.
That's
So,
too bad.
That's unfortunate. So somewhere between the 8th and the 15th, the 8th and the 15th are both Fridays, so basically we're probably looking at the following week there. And the 11th is a Monday, and that's Veterans Day, so that'll be a legal holiday.
Yeah, we can say not the 11th.
And the 13th, Wednesday, is our normal Planning and Zoning Commission meeting that week.
That's what I was thinking. Can we meet at 5:15 or 5? I mean, this is gonna be a 3-minute meeting.
Yeah.
Yes. All we truly need is a quorum.
Yeah, that's what I was
Yeah.
gonna say too. So it's not a
I
quorum,
mean,
just a planning
I'll
and
be up
zoning.
here, Scott, if Scott can make, if he's gonna make the plan and zoning meeting, he'll
That's
be
2
here.
right there, so you need 2 more.
I sit in on a lot of those, so I'll probably be here anyways that night.
5:15, would that work for everybody?
5:15 on November 13th.
Please like have it without me.
I'm like, the quorum, I think, is in effect that night.
What's that?
The quorum, you guys will have three, I'm sure.
You need, well, we have 5 voting members, so you need 3 of them.
Mm-hmm.
Dawn wouldn't actually count as a voting member in this case, because she's a tier.
She's a tire?
I'm tired.
She breaks the ties.
Are you tired?
I'm tired.
Okay.
November 13th at 5:15. Okay. So I need a motion to schedule a special city council meeting for 5:15 PM on November 13th for the purpose of canvassing the 2024 election results for the Gaylord City Council.
So moved.
Motion from Eker. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Groko. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Anything else? Closing comments?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn from Eker. Do we have a second?
I'll second. Go ahead, Lynn.
Seconded by Groko. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.